Tonight, from the edge of America, CNN's Erin Burnett got an earful from Baltimore Councilman Carl Stokes after she defended those that called rioters thugs.
No, we don't have to call them
But how does that justify
thugs.
what they did? I mean, that's a sense of right from wrong. They know it's wrong to steal and burn down a CVS and an old person's home. I mean, come on.
Come on. So calling them thugs, just call them no.
Lena Dunham continues to perpetuate her now discredited claim that she was sexually assaulted by a Republican student during her time at Oberlin College.
It took years to recognize my personal worth was not tied to my assault. The voices telling me I deserved this were phantoms. They were liars. So as a feminist and a sexual assault survivor, my ultimate goal is to use my experience, my platform, and yes, my privilege, to reverse stigma and give voice to other survivors.
And wise words from John F. Kennedy on his faith and politics.
So it is apparently necessary for me to state once again, not what kind of church I believe in, for that should be important only to me, but what kind of America I believe in.
All of this, plus our Mama Luke of the day and more, next on The Rick Amato Show. Welcome, everybody, from the edge of America. I'm Rick Amato. We are following this One American News developing story. Iran is at it again. Yet another embarrassing, provocative public display by the White House's partner in nuclear negotiations. First, the head of Iran's militia said that Israel's existence was non-negotiable. Then the supreme leader, the Ayatollah, called America the devil. And then, of course, over the weekend, the Iranian Navy seized a cargo ship in international waters. And now there's this. The Iranian Foreign Minister, Mohammad Zarif, yesterday told a New York audience that there is nothing that the U.S. Congress can do to stop President Obama in his negotiations with his country. Furthermore, he told the audience that any future president, including a Republican, would be compelled to adhere to the agreement. Joining me this time in studio is Middle East analyst and former Israeli soldier Miha Danzig. Miha, welcome.
Thank you, Rick.
Why would the Iranian foreign minister be so public and so provocative with his words? It doesn't make any sense on the surface, particularly at a time when you think you have negotiating partners trying to reach a deal.
Well, I think this is part of a pattern of behavior that we've seen from the Iranian regime, which has been to consistently provoke us and to express to the world, and particularly their constituents at home, that if they're going to do a deal, it's going to be on their terms, and it's not going to impact them and their ambitions in any way.
Is it possible that's the public display he's trying to create for the audience back home?
It's certainly part of the public display, but it's also part of the reality, right? We're seeing a sliding scale, so to speak, in terms of where we were 2 years ago. When I say we, the UN Security Council, the P5+1, and most importantly, the Obama administration and the Congress were as to what would be an acceptable deal with Iran. And what was an acceptable deal with Iran today, and the things that were our bright red lines, and red lines are famous with this administration for having no meaning, but our bright red lines that we had 2 years ago, they don't exist anymore. They've evaporated. And now we're seeing a framework deal that is talking about things that are vastly different.
It is stunning to see how the White House is silent on all these actions. I mean, provocative words, provocative actions by the Iranian Navy that I just outlined a moment ago. Is it perhaps because we've now learned that Iran is 90 days away from being able to have nuclear weapon capability? And this is just, the White House is in Hail Mary mode. They're desperate.
The White House is signaling to the entire world, and most importantly to the Iranians on the other side of the table that we're negotiating with, that they want a deal more than the Iranians do. And the scary thing is that under cover of the new Corker-Cardin bill that's before Congress, that everyone is viewing as having been a victory for those in the Congress and in the Senate in particular that want to have a say in this deal before it's a done deal, right? that this is not a victory for anybody who really wants congressional oversight over this deal. This is actually a victory for the Obama administration. And unfortunately, Zarif, the foreign minister of Iran, was right when he told the New York audience yesterday that there's nothing Congress can do about it. As long as this deal goes into place, he's going to be right. I pray this does not become the law.
But what about a future U.S. president? He goes on to say that no future U.S. president, including Republican, can undo the deal.
Well, again, it smacks of arrogance, very significant arrogance for a member of a regime that's a totalitarian dictatorship, a brutal one at that, to lecture us, to lecture a New York audience about what happens under our democracy and what a new president would do.
It's provocative and it's embarrassing, as I mentioned.
But Rick, we can't understate what's going on here. I wish that President Obama and the Obama administration would negotiate half as hard and half as savvily with the Iranians as they do with our Congress and with the Republicans in Congress. What happened with this Corker-Cardin bill is that it started out being a bill to ensure that Congress would have to vote to approve a deal.
Right.
Now it's turned into a toothless bill, which is, in its current condition, is a vote for, it would mandate Congress to vote to disapprove the Iranian deal after the P5+1 have already worked it out and presented it to the Security Council and to Congress. And for that, it's an exact flip of what our Constitution requires. People need to understand our Constitution says that 67 senators need to approve a treaty. What Obama has negotiated, again, very savvy negotiation. Again, I wish he was that savvy with the Iranians. But what he's negotiated with Congress and got from Congress is that they need now only to have 34 senators approve this deal by virtue of this reversal.
Yeah, he's gone around the U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate on this, no question about it. In our remaining moments, of course, we now know the Iranians have seized a cargo ship under the Marshall Islands flag. Marshall Islands was part of U.S. territory up until 1986. They need our defense.
Not only do they need it, we're obligated to it.
We're obligated to it.
It's a treaty. Again, a treaty that we agreed to. We are the defense forces for the Marshall Islands.
And the Iranians knew that. They knew that when they seized the ship. It appears to be a deliberate, provocative measure.
It's completely. Look, they surrounded a U.S. flagship last week with the Iranian Navy and threatened and implied a significant threat that they were going to board that ship. Then at the last minute, they let it go. Then this week, they do the same. They seize a Marshall Island ship. It's clearly a provocation. It's clearly, by the way, also telling us back off of our efforts to prevent them from arming the Houthis in Yemen.
That's what the end game is here. Huh?
That is clearly the end game. Look, Iran, even without a nuclear weapon, is seeking hegemony over the entire region. They have it in Lebanon, they're gaining it in Syria, they're gaining it in Iraq, and they want it in Yemen.
You know the Saudis are watching this, and they're getting concerned. What might you think the Saudi reaction might be to this brinkmanship being played out?
The Saudis are not going to stand for the Yemen falling completely under the control of the Houthis, which are basically a puppet regime of their sworn enemy, the Iranians. So the Saudis are going to pull out all the stops. Again, when you cave in and you signal weakness to dictatorships like the Iranians, you're not preventing war, you're inviting war.
Might we see a military alliance between Israel, the Saudis, and the Egyptians?
We won't see a true military alliance. Overtly, we will probably see if the things that are happening now continue on their way, and the Obama administration continues to capitulate to the Iranians, and we end up with this bad deal in front of Congress in a few months. We will see a tacit alliance between the Egyptians, the Jordanians, the Israelis, and the Saudis. And because none of those countries, obviously in particular Israel, but also Saudi Arabia, want to see a nuclear-armed Iran that is further emboldened to send out Shiite militias all over the region.
All right, Middle East analyst, former Israeli soldier Mihad Danzig, thank you for joining us and updating us on that important story.
Thank you for having me, Rick.
All right, Jon Stewart is worried about Wolf Blitzer's memory. Stay with me for the Edge of America. I'm Rick Amato. We're back after this.
Ferguson was just a few months ago, and you were talking about it.
It's hard for me to believe that in this day and age, 2014, so many years after Dr. Martin Luther King, the Civil Rights Movement, we're seeing National Guard troops on the street to prevent this kind of violence in this day and age. It's something I didn't think we'd be seeing again.
I am worried about you.
Do I need to get Sandler to go over your house and just run by you every morning?